Welcome to Business Leader Breakthroughs, where we help unlock the potential in you, your teams, and your business. I'm your host, Ryan Castle, along with Dr. Mike Ashby. We'll share insights, experiences, and stories on achieving breakthrough success in business and life. To learn more, click the link in the episode show notes or go to thebreakthrough.co. Now let the breakthroughs begin. Mike, welcome along to the podcast.
Thanks, Ryan.
We are going to get our research analyst's hat on today.
Investigator.
Big data, questionnaires, surveys, polls, the works. Look, we were really interested in the patterns of work that were emerging in our COVID world. And we connected with the Employers and Manufacturers Association, and they kindly helped us run a research poll out into their member base. And we also had some of our own members fill this in, and we're really trying to investigate what were the trends, what was emerging, how were people feeling about people working from home, less time in the office, was it more productive, was it less productive, was it helping our team coordination, was it helping our businesses? So we were pretty interested and I guess somewhat surprised by some of the results.
Yeah, and bearing in mind that we did the survey just before lockdown 2, so which I guess is just one of the things in this fast changing and rapidly evolving kind of situation we've got, is that there's no perfect time to do this. But yeah, we were surprised at some of the results. It's a reasonably small sample. You know, I think there was it 75 respondents? Which is pretty small, and we, you know, not terribly representative. You wouldn't kind of go to the bank on the basis of it, but it was very interesting and as you say, a little bit surprising. So before lockdown 1, so prior to COVID, 40% of the respondents had no one working from home, but about 45% had up to a quarter of their people. Now, one of the things was they weren't actually spending a lot of time at home, but people did have that provision. So, you know, I think you made the point that it's not a new thing, right?
I think the insight is that flexibility around working from home has been in place at many organisations for a long time. COVID has accelerated the necessity to have larger parts of the team in there, but it wasn't like it was a brand new concept for lots of organisations.
No. And perhaps for longer as well.
Yes.
So not only the kind of, you know, short bursts of time at home, but actually for longer periods. So after lockdown 1, before lockdown 2, only 13% of respondents had no one home. Everyone was at the office. And 40% had more than half their teams at home. So what we saw in the period between lockdown 1 and 2 was that more people were actually working from home, and only 16% or so had more people coming back into the office. But still not for much of the week. 62%, that was up to 2 days, you know, from kind of rarely to up to 2 days. Now the balance were doing more, but that surprised us, that it's, you know, that's the kind of outer edge for the majority. So it's kind of, that did surprise us a little. We thought there would be more people working from home for longer.
Yes. I think we need to consider some of the other factors involved here. Nature of the business.
Yeah.
If you're an entirely service-based business,
Totally.
Obviously easy to work from home. If you're a manufacturing business, you just have to have people on the shop floor getting things done. So there was some of that kind of aspect involved. I've heard different stories based on overseas ownership of organisations.
Okay.
So people organisations setting global policy about what everyone in their organisation is doing around the world, regardless of their local kind of conditions. So some of those things that I think affect your ability to have in or not. My wife works for an organisation whose policy was no one is coming to the office until we go to level 1.
Yeah.
So, you know, obviously that those types of examples would skew the results because their only option was working from home. Of course, the exec made that decision that it was until level 1, we're all working
from home. And look, we haven't got enough of the sample base to, cross tab relative to industries and size of businesses and those kinds of things. So. There's some variability in that. I guess what was interesting was, even within that, when we talked to people who had significant numbers working from home, we we had a couple of hypotheses we were working on. I had this idea that working from home was great for productivity, because that's how we do it. You work from home Friday for however long. I've always, for the last 4 or 5 years, probably worked the majority of my time from home. And that's because I have, the kind of work I do involves getting lots of stuff written, and I need, kind of an environment where I can just kind of keep ploughing through stuff. So we would have thought that productivity would increase around that ability to get things done without interruption, without, kind of chit-chat from colleagues and all that kind of stuff. But the results actually didn't quite bear that out, did they?
And it's worth digging into our view of productivity, and we're going to talk about productivity versus contribution. My Fridays are set aside for what we term our development day, and that is our day where we're not working on today's business. It's about developing our future business. So it is thinking about the future strategically, how we're going to develop and grow. It's not the getting stuff done. So there are some for that day, no interruptions, no meetings, no email is critical for the success of those days. There are other aspects where productivity is very task orientated, doesn't require a lot of collaboration, and actually just having some clear air and to put your head down and smash through some tasks. That is really, really helpful.
And that's my productivity piece, is kind of getting content written, which just requires intensity and focus. And a lot of your stuff that you do on, you're not just sitting there looking out the window, you're actually kind of building technology, working on documents, doing that kind of work, which is about the future, right? So 38% of the people responded that they had more productivity, but 42% were undecided. And that was pretty interesting. And then on top of that, we've heard that actually a lot of people felt that they were less productive in lockdown 2. And actually employers were seeing more, the word a couple of people used was, it's getting abused. So that staff were starting to be less conscientious. And I suspect that that's as much a psychological and emotional thing of kind of, oh, really? This again? Particularly because I felt like after lockdown 1, we'd, our team of 5 million in New Zealand had come together. We felt like we were doing it all for the common good. We'd got back, we'd started building some momentum, and then all of a sudden it was stopped again. And I personally felt a sense of frustration around that, of going, God, we've just got this started. Kind of feel like we've got a bit of momentum again, and now it's been squashed. I think we saw a lot of people feeling like that. And, right at the moment, as we record this, we've only got half a bridge. And again, a whole bunch of people are going to be working from home, and they must be going, oh man, not only do I have to live on the shore, but I can't even get to work. So, it's really tough, I think, the disruption, we all talked about and saw the disruption of going into lockdown 1, and then we kind of adjusted to it because we're good at adjusting, and then we come out of it and there's a period of adjustment to that, and then now then we go back into it. It's really hard work. So it's not surprising that people are less conscientious in lockdown 2. And I guess for us as employers and as managers and leaders, it's something that if it's going to happen again, and fingers crossed that it doesn't, but the overseas experience, it's not going away, and we need to learn to live with it. Now hopefully, my personal or political position is we do need to learn to live with it. We actually need to change our behaviours instead of relying on lockdowns, because they're so destructive. They're so, not only to the economy, but in the sense of kind of businesses going under, but in terms of productivity, in terms of engagement, people's emotional health, the impact on kids. I'm getting on, can you hear a hobby horse? Can you hear the hooves of a hobby horse? But,
rein it in, let's get back to productivity and collaboration.
So the key takeout from this point is be aware that some of those benefits that we talked about coming out of lockdown may not be so apparent if we have to keep doing it. In fact, it's going to get more and more challenging. And that also goes for collaboration. Interestingly, it was a straight split. 26% of people agreed that collaboration was stronger, and 26% disagreed. Most people were in fact undecided about the effects of collaboration. Our theory was that collaboration would suffer during lockdown, and with people working from home, collaboration would suffer. So it's very much split on that score.
And again, I think it comes back to personal preference, the type of work that you do with your teams, how much collaboration is required. Our personal experience was definitely collaboration suffered being at home. We felt that trying to collaborate on things via technology was a much harder environment than being in the room. Just those really simple things like when you're on a video call, only one person can be talking at a time. As soon as someone else tries to chime in, you can't really quite hear. Whereas when you're in a room, you can actually pick up body language much easier. You can hear kind of almost multiple conversations going at once. So for our personal experience, it was definitely collaboration suffered in a lockdown type environment.
And I think it's picking up on people's energy.
Yes.
Because we are creatures of energy. If we're up, it's a different sort of process than if we don't have that mojo, and you just can't pick up on people's energy unless they're really talented performers who can then project that energy. But they're overacting.
Yes.
Right. So and in a work setting, people who overact in a kind of collaborative meeting, you just think they're a bit odd, really. So I think that the energy, definitely the collaboration stuff. We're going to find that more in the face-to-face setting than the virtual setting. The other interesting piece was around cohesion. Again, we expected there to be less cohesion in the organisation where we've got a lot of people working from home. 50% agreed with that, 28% disagreed. They felt that cohesion hadn't been affected. Interesting to see how that would have gone over a longer period of time. So then we talked about how they're organising themselves at the moment. I think there was a reasonable split in terms of how people were thinking about that.
And there was a real split across people or organisations that were allowing their people to kind of choose the days that they were working from home or in the office. Some had a policy of, look, everyone needs to be back. And we did hear one statement around an organisation that was a manufacturing organisation, so therefore their manufacturing team had to be in. And they felt the way to do kind of inclusion and keep everyone on one team was to also have the office workers in the building as well.
Even though they could work from home.
Even though they could work from home, and then others were going, we're going to agree set days where you have to be in the office versus at home. So it was a real mix.
Yeah, let's come back to that. I think as we think about those options, and I guess the guidance piece that we're thinking about is balancing people's need for autonomy and the value that people get from that autonomy. I can remember a guy who said his ideal boss was somebody who just left him alone completely. Actually, that didn't really suit me very well as his boss because I wanted to know what he was doing and how well he was doing, which we would otherwise call accountability. And I think what we saw in lockdown 2 was that there was a little bit too much autonomy and not quite enough accountability. And I don't mean accountability in terms of holding people to account for their performance. I just mean, what are you doing and when are you going to have it done by? That kind of stuff.
At the extremes is never the answer, right?
No.
So the 100% autonomy, I'm never going to talk to you, let's catch up at your annual performance review and we'll see how your year's gone.
He didn't even want to do that, but
that's not going to work. Also, sitting on your knee at your desk, micromanaging literally.
On your knee is such a bad idea.
Oh, it's not allowed to do that? No, not allowed to do that.
Well, they can't see the screen.
The ultimate micromanager is never the answer either, right? It's always finding the balance in between, and I think that's partly what we're seeing in the research and the experience is the balance is about some time together where there is accountability, there is collaboration, there is really good team cohesion, and then on the other side there's we get the value of some clear space to just jump in and smash through some work. So some time working from home to get that nailed is good.
I think that's right, and I think it is about making a conscious choice. And I'm probably not in the corner of people who's going, well, you can choose what days you kind of providing that flexibility. I think that works from the employee's point of view, but I don't think it works that well from the organisation's point of view because there's not enough consistency and stability in the team. And we've all, for years, decades, we've been talking about the importance of teams and how they're the primary unit and all of that kind of stuff. And then we go, but you can choose which days you come in and we'll kind of work around you. It sounds good in theory, but I'm not sure that it creates more engagement. I'm not sure that it necessarily creates more productivity, and that's what this seems to be saying. And I am pretty sure that collaboration and innovation will get undermined. So I think, you have to make, as a leader and a manager, I think you have to make some conscious choices. Collaboration is best done, if at all possible, by bringing people together in the same room, with masks, whatever, but in the same place, able to kind of connect with each other at a really human, not a virtual level. So I think that's kind of principle one. I think you want to leave people together if communications between them are important, if they're an important part of the dynamic, the quick chats, the quick questions and answers, the quick updates, those sorts of things that get lost if you're just working from home. If those things are important to the team dynamic, then you should leave them together. I think that that comes down for me to having specific days when everybody's together.
Yep.
And mandating those. Yeah, and this is what we do, isn't it?
Yeah.
Particularly the case when you're bringing new people into the organisation. It's very difficult to kind of collaborate if you're just working from home, or even to work out what way things get done. So within that, I think you can then decide, okay, so where else does the work get done?
Yeah, and I think I'm really cautionary here that leaders of teams don't confuse time in the office with better accountability necessarily, or with driving engagement. If you are not doing a great job of leading your people and leading your organisation, whether people are sitting at home or sitting in the office, they will be disengaged, they will not be making valuable contribution. So this is where the heavy lifting of management and leadership starts. You've actually still got to build all those principles. You've got to do the work, you've got to connect with your people, you've got to be really clear on what's required. You have to collaborate with them. It's not just a case of going, oh, well, I can manage people better if they're in the office because I can see them. You're missing the point if you think that is what good management looks like.
It was interesting, I might have mentioned this another time in another conversation, but it really sticks in my mind that an engineering firm had their people working from home and recording their time and against their activities. And it turned out that they only actually did productive work 40% of the time. Now, they got paid for the 80% as it was then, because that was lockdown one. And the outputs were the same, which actually suggests that that's what happens at work. People are only productive 40% of the time. When people are working from home and they're only 40% utilised, they capture the benefits of all the other time, because that's time they spend on non-work things. Somewhat, at least somewhat. We don't know quite know how much. If people are only working 40% of the day at the office, the business tends to capture a lot more of that non-productive time. That's the conversations that are not job-related, that's the connections that are not job-related, but all those things are of benefit to the organisation as an organisation and a body of people. And that's another argument, I think, for bringing people together, being clear about, okay, the chunks of work stuff, that's your stuff at home. That's what you do at home. In our setting, Friday is an out of office day. There's no one here. People are, doing their thing, whatever that might be, in the working on space. But just being clear about that means the expectations are much clearer about what we are doing when we're at work, in the office, and the connection piece is happening much more.
And as an example, a member of my team, Elena, she also does development days on Friday, but we have regular communication around what is it that you're going to be working on in your development time this Friday? How is it connected with the strategic goals and priorities we have in the business? Great, sounds excellent. Let's reconnect on that on Monday and go figure out where you got to in that, and how my own development time and how that came back together. So that's not because I have any concern that Milena is going to be shirking off work and not do anything. It's actually just good management. It's going, are we coordinated in the things that we're trying to do and achieve?
And look, it's in the context of all the other mechanisms we've got, and this is important. We have a daily scrum, We do check in on, what's the kind of, what did we achieve yesterday, what's our contribution today. We have a weekly management meeting at which we talk about the week coming up and the highlights and the priorities and where we are. So, there's already quite a comprehensive kind of management structure in place. So it's really about what our head coach Britta talks about, manage the people, not the policy, right? It starts with the people and their styles and their roles, and we kind of work it from there.
Yeah, and I think the policy is about things like let's have set days where everyone's in the office, so it's really easy to plan meetings and some of those kind of really practical things. And then managing the people is about what's the individual's requirement and how can we get the best from them as a human capital resource for our business, but also how can we make sure they are being the best they can be because they're balancing family and work and health, etc. as well. Yeah. So managing the people.
And Mondays and Wednesdays are our all hands. Yeah.
Which is really valuable. I think managing the person aspect is also being very aware of what works for you as an individual and what works for your team members as an individual. For me, I get my energy from being around other people. So for me, spending 5 or 6 hours on video calls kills me because there's just no energy coming back via the screen. Put me in 5 or 6 hours of meetings with people around me that
you're bouncing off the walls.
I am good. I'm like, let's keep going. And you need to be in tune or be asking your own people and your teams enough to understand what their zones are so you can kind of work around them as well.
And in contrast, I come in Mondays and Wednesdays because if I come in any more of that, I'm just a nuisance.
So true. So look, I think in summary, some interesting feedback and findings. Flexibility is not a new concept. Be clear with your people around expectations. Manage the situation around days that they are working from home, how that works with people. Think about the different types of work that your team needs to do. Is this collaboration work? Is this task productivity focus work? And think about how you slot your days around that. And I think that statement that you said, manage the people, not the policy, is great. And my final comment, and Mike add in if you'd like to, but is being a good leader and a good manager is not about time at the desk or standing over people. It's actually about building all those other essential tools and frameworks and capabilities in yourself and your people that leads to a high-performing team.
And I suppose the one sentence summary of all of that is be really conscious about how you organise people on their work, and the point to it is how you get the greatest contribution from the individuals in your team. And that's your decision. Make it as a conscious and deliberate thing. Lead.
We will place in the show notes an article around the research that we've discussed today so you can access those numbers and the insights. And I think we should also put, Mike, your article about contribution. It's such a fantastic theme, thinking about contribution more so than productivity. It's a really interesting idea. We'll put Mike's article on contribution in the show notes as well. So have a read of that. It will make you think differently about how you manage and lead teams.
Thank you.